A few summers ago, I went for a bike ride around midnight with a friend. We went our separate ways at the end of the evening, and I had about 2 blocks to ride back by myself. Because of construction, I had to ride on the sidewalk, but the streets were dead, but it wasn't a problem until right where I was about to turn left onto my street. There was this man walking by himself, maybe 40s, a little scruffy, but not homeless. The sidewalk was narrow, and I didn't want to freak him out, so when I got about 6 feet behind him, I said, "Hey, behind you." And he turned around and gave me this super angry look. I turned down my street, and he started to follow me, literally screaming about how I was rude and he was going to kill me and all that. I live right off the corner, and I didn't want him to figure that out, so I decided to do another loop around the block. That's not the scary part. The scary part is that when I looped back around and looked down the street, I saw him standing on my front door, staring out at the street like he knew where I lived. He saw me ride by again, but he didn't say anything. I ended up going back to my friends, but my bike got stolen from the alleyway by the house 2 days later. Edit. The guy in question was definitely not actually homeless. We have a large population of mentally ill in that area, unfortunately. So if I didn't think the sidewalk was too narrow to pass, otherwise I wouldn't have disturbed him. Half the scary part was that he looked pretty much completely normal for my area. That being said, I ended up texting my mom, and she made the decision not to notify the law enforcement until my bike was stolen. Yay! I had awesome parents who let me sleep in the living room on weekend nights when I was very young because my sister was a light sleeper and I could stay up until dawn. But of course, I always end up sleeping on the couch because Nick at night made me tired. So, one night I woke up to the prickly feeling, like an instinct. Just bolted into a sitting position and stared out the front window. We lived in rural Georgia, so you can imagine the magnitude of trees. In perfect light cast from the moon, I see a silhouette of someone in the tree. The family dog dashes to the window and is snarling into the glass. Terrified, I run into my parents' room and I try to explain to my parents that there is a strange person outside. Dad grabs something defensive and darts outside with the dog to beat the wax off the hothead. I tremble in Mama's arms until Dad comes home and says he saw no one and to go to bed. I decided to sleep in my regular bedroom. I fill in my sister and as to what happened. Dad is making regular rounds in the house with a cup of coffee. We're all still, and I think I can sleep. Nope. I notice a man outside my window. From what I can see in the moonlight, he gives me a shush signal and runs away. Just turns around to run in a straight line away. I swear I couldn't stop crying for what felt like hours. When I was about 10, all of my cousins and siblings were over. About 10 of us there. The parents and grandparents were all out for an adult dinner. So it was just the kids sitting around watching a few movies when all of a sudden the house shook and there was a large flash coming from the backyard. It felt as if a bomb dropped. We all heard, felt, and saw it. And as a pack, we ran into the hallway. The eldest cousins in the group debated on calling the police, but opted to call our parents. After a few minutes, we gained our courage and ventured out into the living room again, this time with weapons, just in case. After a half hour with no other issues, the parents came home and thought we were insane. There was nothing wrong with the backyard, and no neighbors reported anything. It's been 10 years, and we still talk about it, trying to figure out what it was. That has been the scariest thing to happen to me by far. I grew up in a funeral home. I helped out at the office when I was about 15. We got a call from a man whose wife and infant baby had been murdered in cold blood. There were very few clues. It made headlines. Cops set up surveillance at the viewing. It was heartbreaking, as the mother was holding the baby in her arms. I was asked to take the flower cards and periodically get the husband and ask if he recognized the names. I then photocopied them and put them back. I did it because I was a kid, people knew me, and I was unobtrusive. I talked to the husband quite a bit. He seemed devastated and shaken. The cops told me they had an eyewitness to someone leaving the house the day of the murder. The witness was a 3-year-old girl. She recognized the man leaving. It was the husband's best friend. Turns out that the friend and the husband had made a pact to kill each other's families and run off with their secretaries. The little girl identified the friend, and I guess one of them cracked. They both went to jail on multiple counts, all on the testimony of a 3-year-old. I still cannot believe to this day that that man stood right beside me multiple times, and I had no clue. I didn't think I ever looked at life the same way after that. I've never liked being alone. I'd always rather have someone to talk to. In the past years, this became harder and harder. I can't seem to know how to talk to people anymore. But I would always prefer loneliness to what's happening right now. Because I think someone or something is living in my house with me. I've never seen it, not directly, but I hear it constantly, patiently, like it's waiting for me to notice something I'm not supposed to. The strange part is when it happens. Only when the lights are on. During the day, nothing. At night, if I sit in the dark, everything feels normal. But the moment I flip a switch, the noise starts again. Not from the walls, not from the floor, just around me, like it exists in the same space I do, just slightly out of reach of my eyes. At first it was easy to ignore. A faint hum, barely noticeable. I told myself it was electrical wiring in the walls, cheap bulbs, something like that. So I checked everything, replaced bulbs, turned off breakers. I even had a repairman come in and look at the circuits. They found nothing. And by then, the hum had already changed. It started following me. I began to notice when I walked. A second set of footsteps, almost perfectly in sync with mine, but not quiet, just slightly off, a fraction of a second too late, or too early. At first I thought it was an echo, until one night I stopped walking in the middle of my hallway, and I still heard one more step behind me. Not loud, not aggressive, just late. I didn't turn around that time. Told myself I imagined it, that I was tired. But after that, it stopped trying to match me perfectly. Sometimes it would walk when I didn't. One or two soft steps behind me while I stood still, as if correcting a mistake, like it was learning. I tried to catch it. I used my phone camera, holding it over my shoulder as I walked. I passed mirrors quickly, doubling back to look at them from different angles. I even walked past the windows at night, hoping to see a reflection that didn't belong to me. Nothing. Every time I looked, everything was normal, but the sounds kept getting closer. A few days ago, I felt it for the first time. I was standing in my kitchen with the lights on, just staring at nothing, listening to that almost familiar hum. Then right at the back of my neck, I felt warm air. Not like a draft, like someone standing 6 inches behind me, breathing carefully against my skin. I spun around so fast I knocked a chair over. Nothing was there, but the breathing didn't stop immediately. It lingered for a second longer, now in front of me. Then a glass fell, and it was gone. That was when I realized something worse. It wasn't tied to my house. I started hearing it in my car too, only when the interior light was on. The same faint hum, the same uneven breath. I tested it. I parked, turned the lights on, and stepped out of the car, backing away slowly. The noise stayed inside. I remember feeling relieved, smiling even, like I'd finally put distance between me and whatever it was. But the moment I got home, turned on the lights, and stepped inside, it was already there, waiting. That was yesterday. Today, I stopped trying to run from it. I've been standing in my bathroom for hours now, every light on, staring straight into the mirror. At first, nothing was wrong. Just me, tired eyes, pale skin, the same reflection I've checked 100 times before. Then I noticed something small. When I moved my hand, my shadow didn't move with it right away. I froze and I told myself it was a delay, my brain catching up. But then it happened again. I moved my hand slightly, and my shadow hesitated again, just for a fraction of a second, and then it followed. My chest feels tight now. I haven't moved since. I don't know if it knows that I've noticed, or if it's been waiting for this, because the more I look, the more I see it. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. My shadow in the reflection doesn't quite match the light behind me. It stretches in the wrong direction, it shifts when I don't. Every now and then, it rises, just slightly, like it's standing up straighter than I am. I don't think I can outrun it. I don't think I ever could, because it was never following me. It was just practicing. And just now, I swear, it moved before I did. I think I'm the one trying to keep up now. I don't know how long I can stand here. The natural thing to do when using the bathroom at night is to turn the lights on and suffer through the painful wash of brightness for a few seconds, just to avoid hitting your soap pump off the counter or stubbing your toe on the bathtub. I did that too, until I moved out of the family home and got my own apartment. Nothing seemed to be wrong with the place. It felt so freeing getting away from my mother and all her nitpicking, the way she'd point out every single flaw of mine. The first time I used the bathroom at night in my new place, I flicked on the light and squeezed my eyes shut as I was flashbanged. I lifted the toilet lid and sat eager to do my business and get back into my nice warm bed. The disproportionately loud flushing made me wince a bit. I'm not ashamed to admit that. But when I stood before my bathroom counter and turned the water on, I got halfway through washing my hands when I looked up at the mirror and saw it. My reflection wasn't washing her hands. I splashed water all over the room as I staggered back, clutching my shirt. My reflection did the same, and after calming down from my near hyperventilation, I decided that my sleep-aided mind had tricked me. I swallowed the last of my fear and turned off the sink, then dried my hands, my reflection following each action of mine exactly as it should have. I went back to my room and collapsed into bed, finding sleep again in a reasonably short time. That was the end of it, I assumed, just a half-asleep hallucination. I would forget about it in a few days. Indeed, for the next few days, I was able to brush my teeth and do my skincare routine without giving a single thought to the image in front of me. I was able to safely scrub my face with vigor as if trying to rub out every bump. Still, a touch of dread perched in my chest the next time I woke in the middle of the night. I went about my nighttime bathroom routine. Flashbang, relief, flush. Couldn't overcome my sense of dread and avoided looking directly in the mirror as I began to wash my hands. I gritted my teeth, embarrassed at my childish fear, and couldn't bring myself to flick my gaze up to the mirror. Just as I shook the excess water off my hands and turned off the flow, the mirror me tucked her head down as if trying to meet my gaze. I didn't look. I just turned and ran, leaving the light on behind me. Fighting for sleep for hours with my heartbeat in my ears. The next day before my morning routine, I glared at my reflection. My reflection mouthed F you along with me. Well behaved as ever, realizing I just sworn at my own reflection after what my sensible, wide awake mind could now somewhat rationalize as another hallucination. I decided to eliminate this problem once and for all. I checked every alarm that I made. I made an appointment with my doctor, who wasn't very helpful. His response amounted to, "You're tired. Have you thought about my suggestion to lose weight?" I even went to bed at a reasonable hour, hoping that getting more sleep would stop myself from seeing things. Nevertheless, a few weeks later, I opened my eyes and read the bright red time on my alarm clock. While a stone formed in my stomach, it was 2:21 a.m. I had to pee. On the way to the bathroom, I flicked on every light. However, when the open door to the bathroom entered my line of sight, I froze, my throat closing up and legs impossibly heavy. I managed to force myself to make a couple of careful shuffling steps forward. and was able to see a silver of glass around the door. Despite the fact that I was at the dramatic angle closer to beside the door and in front of it, I met my eyes with myself, and my heart dropped. She was bent on the side of, to just barely peek past the door and see me, rooted to the spot. I stared at her while she stared at me. She didn't move. She didn't even blink. But she must have needed to, as long as they stared. The redder and more watery her eyes became. I blinked as soon as my eyes began to sting, but her eyes became painfully bloodshot over what may have been anything from 30 to 10 minutes of staring. The strain on her face grew with each second, skin becoming blotchy red, tears streaming, but her lids didn't even twitch. She just lasered her festering stare into me. My breathing grew heavier and heavier until I finally broke out of the fear enough to run to the bathroom door and shut it. Processing my reflection shutting the door, I peed in the Ziploc bag, poured it out in the sink, and threw it out. I'm not embarrassed. You'd have done the same. After that night, I don't turn on the light to use the bathroom at night anymore. I don't know if my reflection wants to kill me or just torment me. But for my own comfort, I chose to believe the latter and remove her ability to do so. I've learned the layout of my bathroom by heart and can easily navigate it blind. But even if I didn't, dropping my deodorant is preferable to making eye contact with myself. If I can't see her, I can't pretend she's not doing anything. Hopefully she can't see me either.